These crimes are on the rise and they're expensive to investigate and involve a lot of man hours. Marianne Campbell says she wouldn't be surprised if these internet crime units grew as a response to the demands. The Canadian Automobile Association says the real issues could occur at airports, in particular in the U.S., where there are already long waits. They say that could be amplified during the busy travel season. They suggest checking in early and checking online to see what the waits are. Tino Stories, Global News, Saint John. Now, what happens if a proposed east-west pipeline to Saint John is approved? The need to transport oil by rail could all but be eliminated. And in the long run, it could be a lot cheaper too. All shelters in Saint John saw some pretty high foot traffic, in particular the Salvation Army Center for Hope. It has the highest occupancy rate of all New Brunswick shelters with an average stay of 31 days. A lone police vehicle sits in front of this Baxter's Corner home. Neighbors say last night it was chaotic with a number of paramedics and police on scene. A car sits on the driveway with what appears to be numerous bullet holes in it. Terry Garland lives across the street and heard the sirens when he was sitting down for supper.
You can see that they were working on one fellow out in the driveway, trying to resuscitate him, but I don't think it took place because the ambulances, when they left, only two of them took people with them, and the third one, well, the coroner came later and picked them up.
Police say the shooting actually happened at a residence on Route 820 and officers were combing through the area looking for clues. Residents say the injured men left the scene in that red car to the other home. That's where a 31-year-old man succumbed to his injuries. The other two were taken to Saint John Regional Hospital and are in serious condition. A 35-year-old Baxter's Corner man was arrested in connection to this.
What we do know is that the people who were involved in this incident were known to each other. So we believe this to be an isolated incident. Now we're trying to gather information to see what led to this and what circumstances surrounded the incident.
A number of Baxter's Corner residents moved out here for the quiet, safe, and rural setting. This sort of thing obviously wasn't expected and has a lot of them unnerved.
It was quite shocking there for my wife and them to see what was all happening up there.
It certainly puts a chill through me, and I guess I'm in denial. I really don't expect this in a country setting. In Baxter's Corner, that's for sure. It's very shocking.
Lisa Marr was sitting in front of the home for a short while today. She's close friends with the residents here and wants to know if they're okay. She tried calling them several times, but no answer.
It's been extremely hard, yes. I've been awake all evening. I'm very concerned for the well-being of two of my friends.
An autopsy on the 31-year-old deceased was scheduled for today, and RCMP are asking anyone with information on this to contact them. Tino Stories, Global News, Baxter's Corner, New Brunswick. Rose Perry and her daughter Tasha sit underneath a picture of Serena Perry, just over a year after her death at the Saint John Regional Hospital.
It's just been rough. I want some answers. And I don't know where to get them.
It's horrifying. Completely horrifying. We don't cope very well.
No.
We just try to be strong for each other, I guess.
Throughout the year, both the hospital and police have been tight-lipped about the circumstances surrounding Perry's death. February 14th of last year, she signed out of the psychiatric unit and never signed back in. Her body was later found in the hospital amphitheater. Earlier that day, she had a day pass from the unit to visit her family. Rose Perry was with her until about 5:30 p.m. when Serena went back to the hospital. Rose then hung out with her daughter Tasha until about 2:30 a.m. when her motherly instincts kicked in.
I had this bad feeling. I said, Tasha's something very, very wrong. No, Mom, it's okay. I said, no. I said, there's something wrong. I said, I'm afraid to go over to the house.
Eventually, Rose Perry went home, and a couple hours later, Tasha got a text message from a friend who works at the hospital.
The text message I woke up to was, I'm sorry to hear about your sister Tash. And I said, what do you mean? What's wrong with her? And she called me right away, and she was like, Tasha, Serena's dead.
No call from police and no call from the hospital at that point. The police eventually did come to their home, but a year later, the hospital still hasn't called the family.
They didn't phone us to say they were sorry. They didn't phone us to tell us nothing.
Over this past year, Perry has been circulating a petition aimed at improving safety at the hospital. She sent it to a local MLA, but says nothing's been done about it yet. She says if it gets ignored, she'll be back out getting more signatures and hopefully some answers.
I want answers from the hospital. I want to know why my daughter went to the hospital to get her pills regulated, and I want to know why she didn't come home.
Tino Stories, Global News, Saint John.
Well, I was crying. This is where everyone's loved ones are. You don't do this stuff. You don't do it.
Similar thoughts of outrage echoed throughout St. Joseph's Cemetery as there was a steady stream of people arriving to check if their loved ones' monuments are among the hundreds tipped over. Bishop Robert Harris was among those surveying the damage.
This, at our estimate, is close to 500 stones have been knocked over.
It turns out Mike Bonin's wife's monument was one of the many victims. He buried her here almost 2 years ago.
If I happened to be here when they did it, it wouldn't be a very good spot for them. It's unbelievable. I just can imagine what everybody else feels like right now.
Even Saint John Mayor Ivan Court made a stop to see some plots of family members. Luckily, they were spared, but he admits the city's image has been tarnished.
This is ridiculous, and it's hard for anybody to believe how many stones in this area alone that have been knocked down.
Cemetery staff are going to start repairing the damage tomorrow. As far as the cost estimates for that, it's still too early to tell, but it won't be cheap.
In order to reset the monuments on their base, it could cost about $60 per monument.
When you multiply that by an estimated 500, it adds up. Add on top of that the stones that broke apart completely could cost thousands to repair or in some cases replace. Police continue their investigation and say the public will play a big role in solving this.
Oftentimes we get those important phone calls to break the case for us, to give us a good direction on a particular case, and this is no different.
And if the suspect or suspects are caught, Patricia Medor has her own ideas on how they should be handled.
I'd gather them up if I could find them. They'd go to detention just like an army camp. And they can kiss their mother and dad goodbye for at least 2 years.
But even if they do get caught, the incident would still leave Medor with a final thought.
It's a mortal sin. I don't know where people's pride is today. I really don't.
Tino Stories, Global News, Saint John. The traps are baited. The boats are loaded. It's lobster season in Alma, New Brunswick.
Adrenaline's going big time, and everybody, as you can see on the wharf, is happy and we're ready to get back at her.
This is Lobster Fishing Area 35, and it's the only one open right now in the Bay of Fundy, and the only time you'll see the boats leaving together. The veteran lobstermen are bracing for long days.
We won't sleep until tomorrow night.
Then there's the greenhorns, or rookies like Brandon Earl. He'll probably be running traps and learning the job on the fly. On top of that, the rest of the crew will probably be harder on the greenhorn than anyone else.
They'll rouse you until your temper goes, and then they laugh at you.
The boats took off at 9:30 a.m. while much of the town of Alma watched from shore. One boat had their very own pirate, no doubt looking to plunder their clawed treasure. However, that treasure might not be as shiny this year.
The price has been kind of the crapper. We still don't know what's going to happen with the price, I guess. They're talking about like $4 a pound or something, but we're hoping for more than that.
And they'll need it because their overhead isn't getting any better.
The fuel prices is higher, the wages are higher, the boat prices is higher, everything is higher.
Fishermen here say $5 a pound would be optimal, giving them a decent profit. They won't know what they'll be getting for another 5 or 6 days. Recently, in nearby Maine, lobsters have been selling in some cases between $2 and $3. That has brought prices down, and lobster shops end up explaining to customers why their prices aren't at those levels.
When the newspaper puts out that fishermen are only getting $2.50 for their lobster, or they hear the main price is $3, they expect to come to the lobster shop and buy grade A lobster for $2.50.
Tino Stories, Global News, Alma, New Brunswick.